Hello, my name is Arthur, and in this video we're going to get the tank's turret returning home, and then we'll review my camera changes and give some credit for where that came from. So first off, we'll get the camera returning home. This is not very difficult. So in physics process, we check for targets, and if there is no targets is when the turret stops moving. So that seems the most sensible place to add in the function for returning the turret to home. So if target size is not greater than 0, there's no targets. So we're going to go elif, and then we'll do some copy and paste scripting here. So we're going to pull this so we don't have to type it, because I've already typed that. So we'll copy it, we'll paste that. So if rotation degrees Y is greater than 1, or paste if it is less than -1. So that gives us pretty much 1 degree kind of accuracy. So it could be let's see, what's our actual turret speed is 0.25. Yeah, so there's like 0.75, or it could be as low as 0.75 or as high as low as -0.75 or as high as plus 0.75. So that's a 1.5 degrees of inaccuracy, which is not going to be noticeable. The turret will essentially be really close to 0. I find it best to avoid 0 in this situation. So what we're going to do is we're going to reuse direction. I don't know how that would be viewed in scripting, that I have direction, I use it for turning the tank, then I use it for turning the turret. I don't know how that's viewed, but it's a variable that's there. It's set to null every iteration and just being used to do what it's supposed to do, give a direction, a minus or a +1. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to determine if rotation degrees Y is a minus or a +1, and then invert that. So we'll go ABS, paste, divided by, divided by the same. That will return if the turret is sitting in a negative. Oh, what's this? Typo. If the turret is sitting in a negative, this will return a -1. And if it's sitting in a positive, it will return a +1. And then because we want it to go in the opposite direction, we'll times that by -1. So that will invert the direction. And then we can just apply that. So paste plus equals direction. And that should get our turret home to within 1.5 degrees. So we'll just test that out. Hopefully everything's right there. And we didn't use the turret speed, so it would return quickly. So it's turning at 1 speed, but when it returns, it's going to return quickly. And that's okay. I'm satisfied with that. Alright, so that works. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the changes I made for a camera. a tutorial that I got it from, and sort of how it's built a little bit. So we have an orbiting kind of camera. What this is it's like a first person shooter kind of camera. So it can rotate on X, it can rotate on Y, and on Z, with the use of the scroll wheel, it has a couple of speeds of zooming in. So it can zoom in to just shy of the center and zoom out to just past the outside edge. And that gives us a good ability to look at our arena here. And then when you middle mouse click, you get your pointer back and you're able to select and control your units. Although from this far away, they're a little harder to select. So we'll have a look at how that's made and where I got it from. So this is the camera. It's a spatial, I called it cam. It has a spatial, and then a clipped camera. And I went with the clipped camera because there's a possibility that my map arena will have buildings in it. So if there's going to be buildings and things that the camera could pass through, it's probably best to be using a clipped camera so it'll bounce off of buildings and stuff. And it'll try to adjust to not go inside of structures and make it so you can't see. So what it is basically a gimbal. It's more or less no different than, let's look at 3D here. It's more or less no different than this tool. So we have a limited rotation on X. I think it was, it might be 0 to minus 50 on X. It can rotate all the way around Y, and then it's basically the blue arrow for zooming in and out. Now, where I got this from is this tutorial with, he does a bunch of third person, first person, third person shooter stuff here. Really good tutorials. I'm surprised at how low the likes are. Let's drop a like there. And even the comments, I'm surprised at how low the comments are. He does a pretty good thing here. I don't know. I think this kind of ended. I'm not sure if that was ever finished or how far it went, but it was a pretty good series and I went through a lot of it and got a lot out of it. So that's where the camera came from. This is its script, and most of this comes from the tutorial, except for the zoom. The zoom is my addition, and I've kind of changed the sensitivity and the angles so that it suits my game effort here a little bit better. So basically what it does is we start off in the world script with unhandled input. I've added middle button to the events we're looking for and a variable boolean for camera mode. So if I press the middle mouse button, it's going to toggle between camera mode false and true. It will capture the mouse if it's entering camera mode, and it will release the mouse if it's or the pointer if it's exiting camera mode, and it will tell the camera that it's in camera mode or exiting camera mode. So each time the mouse button is clicked, if it's exiting, it sends false. If it's entering, it sends true. And then for the other mouse button events, I've just added and not camera mode. So none of these things can happen when in camera mode. I don't know what would actually happen if I was clicking on the screen with the mouse captured. I'm not really sure what would happen, and I'm not going to experiment. I just know that this way all of the functions are locked out in camera mode, and you have to exit camera mode to be able to move players and stuff around. So yeah, basically what it does is it uses the mouse motion and it does it relative to the X and Y axes. And we apply a sensitivity so that it's not too jumpy. So I have a sensitivity of 0.25 so it doesn't fly around too quickly. And then I added in button wheel up and button wheel down for the zoom. And my zoom speed is a maximum of 0.1 and it starts at 0.5, so that's the two speeds. If I click once, it will go to 0.5. The second time, the speed is 0.1. And then I can back down to 0 and back down to negatives. So zoom the camera in and out. And yeah, it's just rotating. One of the spatials is rotating on Y, H. And then vertical is rotating on X, like I showed on the manipulator tool. And it translation Z is where the zoom speed is added to, so it's moving in and out along the Z axis basically. So yeah, that's about the best I can explain it. A better explanation would be to watch the video that I got it from. He goes through it pretty quickly, but explains it pretty good. Good enough that I'm able to adapt it for my own use and make it work with my little effort. So from here, I guess I would be looking at something like time to get an enemy in the scene and update the scene some so that, well, this silly hill is kind of no more, and maybe some better things in the scene to make it more into a game and less into just a testing ground to get tanks working. So my thinking is that an enemy tank can be made very simply. I can use the same tank and simply UV wrap it into different color to get a quick enemy tank. And the enemy tank can use the same script as the player tank. It would just receive its directions differently. And that's how my two-dimensional effort worked with tanks. So I don't see why that wouldn't work with this one. So we'll see what we can do with that and get an enemy going and get some more stuff onto the map, like build some assets to put on the map and try to make something interesting out of it. And until then, I hope this was helpful, and take care.